Okay, I just wanted to take you guys through servicing of this unit. So if you at about 1380 Ks, I had to replace the blue gear with a brass gear. We'll just take that off. We've done another 1200 Ks since then, so I just wanted to take it apart and just give it a bit of a clean and re-grease and put it back together. It's quite trivial. I'll just show you how it's done. The other thing I want to do is there's a little bit of a clicking noise coming from in there, so I just wanted to have a check and see if anything has gone wrong. So let's get started. So you don't really need to take the crank off at this stage, but you should loosen the motor if you've got it up against the frame like I have. So I'll just loosen that off for now. So I've got this tool here. And if you don't have this, you will have to take the crank off to use the original tightening tool that comes with the kit. Okay, so all we need to do is get that motor away just a little bit. Okay, alright, now I'm going to take off these 4 screws for the cover. Let's go. Alright, so that's 4 screws on the cover. Just remove the cover. Now, important thing to note that there is a rubber seal around the cover. You want to keep that intact. Make sure you don't cut into that. Alright. Now the next part of it is to unplug this wire here. So let's just take that off. Since we're going to pull the motor out. I don't think this needs to come off, but we'll have a look at that. And you need to pull this little cover off. So let's do that. It does help if you have the right tools and if you don't drop anything. I'm going to have to find that screw, aren't I? Now I'm just going to take these off. Be careful that they don't come flying apart. I've heard cases where they can fall apart. I haven't experienced it myself. So just be a little bit careful anyway. Now they are color coded. You can see blue goes to blue, green goes to green. So you don't have to worry about mixing these up. So now that these are away, what we need to worry about now is the screws on the outside here. So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm just going to pull out these 4 screws. So they hold the motor in place into the housing. So let's just take those out. So 4 of those. Now, what you need to do is to pull the motor out. So as you can see, it's jammed in there quite tight. There is a little bit of a technique. What we're going to try to do is hit up against this edge. Okay, it's the back edge of the motor. Just try to like pull it out straight out. Okay, I'm just going to grab a hammer. So just have a little bit of wood lying around. I'm just going to put that here, go on that edge and just sort of tap it. Okay, now I'm going to do the same on the bottom. Give it a tap, and you can see it is actually moving, so a little bit on the top, a little bit on the bottom. Don't try to do it all at once. Now it's loosened the motor right out, so we're just going to pull it straight out. And I'm a bit worried that something's broken in here, but in fact it's not. Okay, so it's a little bit dirty. I'll just give that a bit of a clean up, put some new grease on there. Now, where is the gear, you might think, you might ask? So this is the brass gear here. Let's pry that out. Okay. Basically it sits up that way with the washer downwards. You can see it meshes nicely. Now this shaft pops out too. Okay, but this is what I thought might be the issue with the clicking. Doesn't seem to be. All the gears are intact. Now these mesh with the main gear. Look, I'm gonna zoom up on there because I know you can't see that, but there's a huge gear that drives the cranks. Basically that's meshing up against that. Now when I rotate it one way, it actually grabs, as you can see. When I rotate it the other way, it freewheels. So what you want to check for a bit of play in the bearing. You want to check that that action is still happening. Just check that there's no teeth broken, so you can run your fingers along there. And then all I'm going to do is basically clean inside the motor, clean everything up, put some new grease in, put it all back together. From the point of view of the motor and the bearing, and this bearing, there's not really a lot of play there, and there's nothing that I can see that's broken, so I'm happy to put that back together again. Okay, like I said, watch out, don't lose that little washer there. You can see how that freewheels, and when the motor drives it, it actually drives the outside of that. What I'm going to do now is I'll just quickly zoom up so you can see the inside of that, just so you know what I'm talking about, which this basically the main gear. So there's a close-up of that internal gear I was talking about. Well, not the internal gear, that's the main drive gear. And as I'm spinning the cranks around, you can see that turning. I'll just check out, make sure that all the teeth are good, but that thing's yeah, it's fairly solid. You're not going to get any issues with that large gear. Okay, so let's first start by just cleaning brass gear. Okay, we'll just check that there's no play in the bearing. Feels okay. We'll just clean the shaft. Just check that there's no play in this bearing, and that's fine as well. Just get it nice and clean. Don't know if there's any metal shavings in there or anything that's going to cause any issues later on. So you might as well get it clean. So we're doing that service. I recommend to do this every 1,000 kilometers. Again, you can just check the teeth. Pretty good still. And you're not going to expect the motor to wear out after 2,500. Okay, but still worth giving it a check. Okay, so that one's good. That's all good. I'm going to get inside here, just through the middle, because this is actually like the clutch part of the gear. So in one direction it freewheels, and the other direction it grabs. I don't really know if it's a good idea to get a lot of grease into this area, so I'm just going to get rid of that excess grease. Also gives you a good opportunity to check the teeth when you're doing this, otherwise you might just miss it. So yep, spend a little bit of time cleaning. Okay, just going to do a quick test here. Just check this clutch mechanism out. So yeah, definitely working well. Alright, just clean up around the motor. This one here. Just no play on that. Spinning okay. So that's fine. And I was expecting this shaft here to be broken because I have been getting a little bit of slipping under, like extreme high loads, but I put it down to maybe slipping in here, I'm not sure. Just having a better look at the teeth, again they look pretty good, nothing really to be. Okay, alright, well that's kind of about it. Just being into this pocket here. Alright, now just want to check that that is okay. Yep. It's a little bit, the bearing's actually got a little bit of play there. A lot more than you probably want. That could be an issue actually, that bearing play. It's definitely not the fit, it's like a really nice fit. So yeah, there's actual play in that bearing. Alright, I'm going to get a new one of those, but for the moment I am going to re-grease and put it back together. Alright, so let's just throw a bit of grease everywhere and just put this thing back together. Okay, again, I did want to refrain from getting any on the inside of that brass bearing. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe off that shaft. I'll put the that washer down. Just get a little bit of grease on the outside. Again, that side goes that way. That fits in there. Okay. Yeah, you could see that actually. You could see that pulling away. Actually, have a look at that. It's actually pulling away from the main drive gear. So you could imagine on some really heavy loads, this could pull away enough to slip. Okay, alright, put some more. So I was concerned about this pulling away, but that's fairly solid. Alright, let's put some grease all over that brass gear. Let's put this going on. And that fits into the body, so that's not going to move. Theoretically, if this is a tight fit into the housing, this bearing here, then that should also stop that movement as well. And this bearing, this larger bearing is fine if there is a lot of wear and tear in the housing. I don't know how you'd fix that. But anyway, I reckon this is ready to go back in. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of grease in there. Just a tiny amount, Okay, so we'll just line it up. So both of those bearings have got to go into the housing. So just get that in nice and straight. You can line it up using those holes. Okay. Okay, so we'll just get those flush first. Now we'll just give it a little bit of a turn. A little bit of a turn. Just make sure you move that around a little bit. Just so that you know that it's meshing. It's definitely meshed right now. So I'm just doing the opposite screws and then the other opposites. And again, so you can see it every time I do it, it's loose. So you just keep going until they're all nice and tight. And yep, that's good. Okay, next, what do we have to do next? Does anyone remember? Yes, okay, we need to put all these wires back. Do the other one first, makes sense. Okay, there is a cover which goes here. Okay, we'll plug this guy in. Sorry if my hand's getting in the way, but just plugging that guy back in. Just tuck it all in there. Now, the cap. So just give that a bit of a wipe with your finger. Now it is rubber, so you probably don't want to put any sort of grease on it, or unless you've got any that is okay with rubber. But I could just put a bit of soap on that. Just got a bit of car soap in here, and I'll just put a bit on my fingers and run that around the seal, just to make sure that it's going to give you a seal. You're not going to get any water in there. Again, maybe rub down that edge with a little bit of soapy water, and make sure that that's all clean. That cover back on, and just put your screws back in. Anyway, that sort of concludes this thing. Keep an eye out for the info on that bearing. You can get some information on Endless Sphere, or indeed on the Facebook group that we all hang out at, which is the best e-bike. Again, with this, don't tighten it all from one side, just put them in all flush and then tighten it slowly. That should be tight. Okay, so just another thing, if you are using this on a dual suspension bike like I am, then obviously you can't install that rear support to the swing arm because the swing arm moves. So just use a little bit of rubber hosing. Now I've found what's really strong is this heater hose that you use on the car because it's reinforced. So I just put it there, and when you tighten that motor up, it's going to push up, wants to push up against the frame, so against that down tube. So you just want to make sure you have that rubber in between the motor and that frame so it doesn't make a whole lot of clunking noises, because these things do get loose and it will make like a frog croaking noise if it does come loose. Okay, so push that down. It's going to go down anyway, so push it down. And like I said, if you don't have this this tool here, then just take the crank off and use the tool you got to tighten up that screw. And I like to hit it with a huge mallet.